you ever feel sometimes that when you're in the presence of a particular person, you feel certain vibrations coming off of them? They might be good, they might be bad, they might be triggering certain emotions in you. Let's explore a little bit about why we get so affected by others. Hello, I'm Sandhya and welcome to Dynamic Living. So about these vibrations, first of all, I have to say that despite all of the advances in science, we haven't unfortunately been able to measure any kind of vibration that a particular person gives out that is going to hit us in any way and impact our mood in any way. It might be a little disappointing for a lot of us that would like to believe this, but I actually think this is great news. This means that the power lies with us, and that anything that's going on within our change of mood and our environment, so to speak, is happening within our brain. Think about it this way, it does stand to reason. If there's a person who triggers within you feelings of anger and irritation, that same person could be a source of tremendous love and happiness for somebody else. So the vibrations, in inverted commas, are not coming from that person. In fact, it is your response to that person. Now, it isn't just about you as well. There have been many studies going as far back as 2012 maybe, that have shown that when two brains are in proximity, they do synchronize to some extent. In fact, the study used a very powerful line, which is that human emotions are highly contagious. You see many examples of this in everyday life. Think about a crowd that's gathered together for like a peaceful march. Suddenly somebody triggers an anger response and there's entire violence in the whole crowd. The mob, it turns into a mob, it may turn violent. How does this happen? How are all of our brains sort of reflecting these same feelings? That's what we're going to understand today. And this understanding can help us master our own emotion and not be at the mercy of somebody else or indeed the whole world. I don't know if you've ever heard this saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. And that could never be more true than now. And there have been multiple studies now that neuroscience is advanced and we can actually see two brains in close proximity to each other functioning together in functional MRI machines. We now know this for a fact. If I'm calm, I do see that my son is a lot calmer around me. In turn, whenever I have a conversation with a particular friend, I always come out of that conversation feeling drained, feeling tired, feeling agitated. How is it that two people can affect me and change my mood in so many different ways? And that is the synchronization that I was talking about. So is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? Well, there is no good or bad really. It is for you to just pause, take a look at your surroundings and see what it is constituted of. Who are the people that you end up spending the most amount of time with? It could very well be your loved ones. It could be your colleagues. It could be somebody that does absolutely nothing for you in terms of your emotional well-being and your mental calmness. Now, for much of the population, most of us are unaware, and many of us actually seek out these sort of relationships. There is a psychologist called Eric Berne who spoke very famously of the games people play. We sometimes do seek out these high drama, high agitation, and high tumult relationships in our lives just because that's what we were used to as a child, or that was our socialization, and that's our picture of what the world ought to look like. But you know what? Our emotions, our present, our state of mind lies largely in our own hands. And for those of us that do want to make a change, that do want our lives to be calmer, more focused, more meaningful, here are 5 steps that we can take. Number 1, just the awareness itself is extremely powerful. Like I said, most people aren't even aware that they're in these sort of patterns and absorbing behavior or mimicking the behavior of other people. Now that you have this awareness, watch around you, observe and pause. Just that will help us reevaluate how we want to respond or how we want to direct our emotions after this contemplation. Number 2, and boy do I bang on about this, a mindfulness practice. What is it? Other than bringing your thoughts to the present moment, but also to come back to yourself. Our thoughts are constantly running into the world, are constantly running towards other people, are constantly looking for threat, looking for love, seeking out something from the world. But if we come back to ourselves, we can see what's going on within ourselves and choose and direct the quality of our emotions. Number 3, and this is particularly true for relationships that are already existing in our life or are very close to us already, we seem to believe that there are certain presets of patterns that we have and that there's nothing that we can do to change them. In fact, every emotion is a concept that we create. And for us to create new concepts of relationships, we simply have to create a new vocabulary for ourselves. If you feel that every interaction with your partner ends in conflict, ends in agitation, just redefine it. Just say that, look, I am a different person. He or she is going to act as he or she is helpless to do. I can choose how I wish to respond to that. And I'm going to create a new relationship of deeper understanding, of more synchronicity, of more oneness, of more respect, of more kindness. The world is your oyster and you can pick. Number 4 is redefining your boundaries. This is a good time for us to look at how we interact with each person and how much of ourselves we pour into each relationship. Again, this is something that I keep saying, our energy is finite, our decision-making capacity in each day is finite. Are we really going to expend all of this in trying to sort out tumultuous relationships, trying to pull ourselves out of the mire that we keep jumping back into? There are certain people that are close to us, maybe by social obligation, maybe by blood relationships, very often by our own choices. Let's just take a look at what sort of boundaries we've drawn in each of them. And trust me, even your most intimate relationship will thrive for having healthy boundaries. We don't merge into each other. It's not two become one as the Spice Girls told us should happen. We are our own individual people first. And if we can see the boundaries of where we end and where the next person begins, and if we define that in healthy ways, we will have much healthier relationships overall. And finally, for number 5, I'm going to say, change the kind of contact you have. Very often we hang on to toxic friends just because we're scared of being alone. What better time as we come out of lockdown and move into this new world than for us to really pick and choose our relationships. If there's something that doesn't serve us, we need to be brave enough to say that, you know what, I'm better off alone than in an unhealthy relationship. And for those that we cannot cut off completely, we can definitely change the kind of contact that we have. If you met with somebody toxic, and only you can decide that, no one else can judge that for you, for long extended conversations, maybe you can change it to meeting that person for a run. If both of you are breathless, you can't have very many toxic conversations now, can you? And nobody is all good and all bad. We need to see what we bring into the relationship as well. So I hope these 5 tips have helped you. Let's look towards creating a healthy relationship and therefore a healthy brain and mind for each of us as we go forth into this new world that awaits us. Thank you for watching, and do share if you feel that this can help anybody in your life.